morning students, welcome to SST, So Simple Tutorial. My dear students, in the previous class we read Rebellion in the Countryside. We read about the participation of peasants from our region and the tribals from Gudam Hills in Andhra Pradesh. Today we will read Swaraj in the Plantations. Dear students, when I say Assam, what are the things that come to your mind? What kind of image is formed in your eyes? The mighty Brahmaputra that flows through Assam? Songs of Bharat Bhupen Hazarika? Kaziranga National Park? Kamakhya Devi Temple? And what else? Of course, the tea gardens. The British East India Company had begun large-scale production of tea in the early 19th century. Thereafter, the tea industry expanded rapidly and Assam became one of the leading tea producing regions of the world. Today, we will not discuss the tea gardens, we will discuss the workers of the plantations. To work in the tea plantations, the colonial planters brought people from Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh as indentured labor. Let us first understand the meaning of indentured labor. Indentured laborers were men and women who signed a contract, also known as an indenture, by which they agreed to work for a certain number of years. In India, the contract promised return to India if they had worked 5 years on their employer's plantation. Now, you may ask, why Indians agreed to become indentured laborers? They agreed to it because they needed work. They wanted to escape the widespread poverty and famines of the 19th century. They thought that this is how their life will become comfortable. Now, where did they mainly go? Indian laborers mainly went to Caribbean islands, Mauritius and Fiji. Caribbean islands, do you remember the triangular slave trade, Guadeloupe, Martinique, Saint Domingo? Tamil migrants went to Sri Lanka and Malaya. People from Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh, as I told you in the beginning, went to Assam tea plantations. Okay. When the laborers reached the plantations, they found conditions to be different from what they had imagined. Living conditions as well as working conditions were harsh and dismal. They got a meager amount as wage. The plantation masters were very cruel to the workers. They used to flog them. They humiliated them. They were confined to the enclosed space of plantation. They were not allowed to move out of the plantation. There was a law called Inland Immigration Act of 1859. Under this act, workers were not permitted to leave the garden without permission. This means the law permitted them to leave the gardens with permission, but the reality was that they were rarely given such permission. Several times, these people tried to protest against the atrocities of the planters and estate managers, but most of these protests were ruthlessly suppressed. For them, that is, the plantation workers, freedom meant the right to move freely in and out of the confined space in which they were kept. It also meant retaining a link with the villages they had come from. They believed that Gandhi Raj was coming and everybody would be given land in their villages. They imagined Swaraj to be a time when all their sufferings and troubles would be over. When the news of Swaraj and non-cooperation movement spread to the plantations, many workers began to defy the authorities. They left plantations and headed towards their homes. But they got stranded on the way because of a railway and steamer strike. They were caught by the police and brutally beaten up. Thus, students, we saw the participation of various social groups. Each group had its own hopes and aspirations. The students, teachers, lawyers responded enthusiastically in the towns. They saw the movement as a gateway to freedom from the foreign domination. Peasants joined the movement in the countryside, but it was primarily against the talukdars and landlords. By Swaraj, they meant they would not be required to pay any taxes and that lands would be redistributed. Plantation workers from Assam also joined the movement. For them, Swaraj meant the right to move in and out of the confined space in which they were kept. It also meant retaining link with the villages from where they had come. So, dear students, the movement was going on in full swing when an incident took place in Chauri Chaura. Chauri Chaura is in Gorakhpur district of today's Uttar Pradesh. In Chauri Chaura, people turned violent and set fire to a police station in February 1922. It caused the death of 22 policemen. As we all know, Gandhiji was against violence. He condemned the actions of the peasants and called off the movement immediately. He felt that the Satyagrahis needed to be trained properly for mass struggles. As a consequence of the non-cooperation movement, the British Raj was shaken to its foundations for the first time since the revolt of 1857. Although the movement ended abruptly, it marked the beginning of mass movements in India. Mahatma Gandhi emerged out as an undisputed leader. I hope you have understood the topic clearly. Students, now you should be able to answer these questions. 1. Explain the conditions of the plantation workers during the colonial rule in India. What was the Inland Emigration Act of 1859? 3. How did plantation workers have their own understanding of Mahatma Gandhi and the notion of Swaraj? Explain. This has come as a 5-mark question in 2019. My dear students, let me stop here now. Now you read your textbook and allow me to leave. In the next class, we shall discuss Unit 3 towards civil disobedience. Till then, keep reading and have a nice time. Thank you.